Hi everyone, I am here with tonight's Christmas story. Okay, let's start with our advent calendar. For December 18th, 2020, it simply says, God came into our world as a baby. Think about that. Think about that. Grew up just like we did. Had the same feelings and stuff like we did. Emotions. Alright, so tonight's story is called Pecans, Pecans. It is by Patricia Johnson from South Carolina. I couldn't remember the last time we had such a bountiful harvest. Whack went the hammer, putting a good crack in the pecan. Bits of its smooth shell flying across the porch. A hammer wasn't really the best tool for this job, but I couldn't find our sturdy old nutcracker. I dropped the cracked nut into the bowl at my side. Daddy would do the actual pilling. I reached for my next victim. Only 80-gallon buckets to go. I thought ruefully. I wasn't exaggerating. All my life my family had picked and shelled pecans from our fruitful trees come October, but I couldn't remember a year when we'd harvested 80 buckets worth. More than enough for a batch of my father's famous holiday fruitcakes to hand out to expectant friends. In the past, Daddy would have been out on the porch working alongside me, but his Parkinson's was progressing. He wasn't able to crack the nut in the precise way he used to, and was most comfortable sitting in his big chair in the living room. So we'd worked out a system. I cracked the nuts just enough to get them started, and when I had a bowlful, I brought it to Daddy so he could pick the meat. He was a stickler about his fruitcakes being free of even the tiniest crumb of shell, and cleaned his pecans like nobody's business. He entrusted this part of the process to no one else. I just hope my hand holds out, I thought, giving it a shake. I'd been cracking pecans every afternoon for weeks. When I went to sleep, I cracked nuts in my dreams. Once I woke up to find my hand curled around my imaginary hammer. I dropped one more nut into the bowl and carried it inside. I need another break, I said, plopping down right next to Daddy, his work cut out for him. Good thing my recipe is worth the trouble, he said with a wink. He had experimented with his fruitcakes over the years until they were a thing of joy. Mom and I were determined that this year's batch would go out on schedule, no matter Daddy's limitations. We wouldn't let one pecan go to waste, even if it wasn't the most efficient with my make-do tool. Feeling restless, I went into the kitchen to run cold water over my sore hand. Don't we have a nutcracker somewhere? I asked my mother. A nutcracker, she said. Like one of the painted ones you brought home from Germany? Not those, I said. I know we had a good old-fashioned metal one here somewhere. Easier on the hand. I could go through the buckets a lot faster if I didn't have to take so many breaks from that hammer. I checked all the drawers in the kitchen. Knives, oven timer, ladles, whisk, no nutcracker. I gave up and went back to sit next to Daddy. It felt funny just lazying around when there was so much to do, but while Daddy picked out the meat, we talked and reminisced. Time seemed to slow. Mom brought in some iced tea and new conversation. When my husband got off work, he joined us too. It got to be a regular hangout. All through November and into December, I made my way through the buckets. Some days it seemed like they multiplied while I was inside on my break. One afternoon, I went through all the kitchen drawers again, still looking for that nutcracker Mom asked. I'm afraid I'm drawing this out too long. Half the time, I'm just sitting with Daddy. You don't think he's had enough? Those pecans give him a chance to be busy again, Mom said. He loves it. I didn't even mention the nutcracker to Daddy, in case he'd think I didn't want to finish the job, but finish I did. And by the end, Daddy had 45 bags of shelled pecans. It was time for baking. Daddy took his place at the head of the table. Mom greased the pans, lined them with wax paper. I followed Daddy's strict instructions for mixing. Butter first, cut into small pieces. Now add the brown sugar. Daddy and I were a good team. When we had the pans all filled and ready for the oven, Mom slid them in. After every one was baked and cooled for wrapping, we made our deliveries. Back at home, after the last fruitcake drop-off, I felt a rush of satisfaction. I hope we get another good harvest next year, I said. I meant it. My hammer fist could relax at last, and I almost missed the familiar feel of that tool in my hand. Daddy had already moved on to another holiday task. Nowhere is the file I used to sharpen our carving knife. I'll get it, I volunteered. It's in the shed. Right away, I found what I was looking for, a cardboard carton labeled files. I opened it up, pulled out the file that Daddy needed. There among the metal files was another box clearly labeled pecan cracker. I shook my head. It was the one thing that could have moved our job along and saved us so many afternoons of idle talk while I took break after break to rest my hand. Long afternoons of just sitting with Daddy while he peeled his pecans and honored his tradition. Serene afternoons of loving, uninterrupted attention. When else had I put aside such time to spend with my family so regularly? When had I ever enjoyed them more? I went back inside with Daddy's file, and Mom's look what else turned up. I presented the elusive nutcracker. Exactly what you were looking for, Mom said. I could have told you where that was, Daddy said. Nobody asked me. We all had a good laugh. Another one of the many we'd shared during our peaceful afternoons together. God must have known that's what I was really looking for. The proof was in the pecans. Alright guys, let's see. This has got a thing here on this page. It's got a little extra thing, so I'll read it. Mysterious ways, all aboard. It's just like a little Christmas tree in a train. Might as well read this too. Out of everything my uncle had left behind, I was drawn to the toy train. My mother and I cleaned out his house, and she encouraged me to take it to remember him by. The train was made of blue plastic. It had 6 cars and a battery-powered engine. The track came in pieces that snapped together to form a simple oval. Uncle Joe, my mom's brother, was a kid at heart. He never finished school, never married. He got a job at a factory and lived with my grandmother. He loved cars, loved anything with a motor and wheels, really. His simple life, but he found joy in the little things that made them magical for us all. Every year, Mom and I took Uncle Joe Christmas shopping to buy toys for his nieces and nephews. His eyes lit up when he saw that train. He set it up as soon as he got home, laying the tracks around the Christmas tree. With Uncle Joe gone, the holidays seemed a little less bright. After our first Thanksgiving without him, I set up the train tracks around our tree. For Joe in heaven, I told my wife, almost like he's here with us. The kids loved it. My son Josh sat his Lego figures in the cars. His older sister Casey watched as the train went around and around. A few nights later, a strange sound woke me up. Click, clack, click. It was coming from the living room. I shuffled out of the bedroom. Click, clack, click. I turned on the lights and blinked hard. The train, it was running. One of the kids must have crept out of bed. I checked and found them both sound asleep. To be certain I wasn't dreaming, I woke my wife and dragged her into the living room. Seems like something Joe would do, she said. We laughed and watched the train chug merrily along. I turned off the train and the lights and we went back to sleep, but the same thing happened the following year, and the year after that. Uncle Joe's train has brightened our holidays ever since. Whoever hears it first wakes the rest of the family for a bit of Christmas magic we can always count on, just like when Uncle Joe was here. By Dennis Kiefer from New York. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's Christmas story and the little extra one here, Mysterious Ways, all aboard. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another Christmas story. Good night, guys. Sure? You stuck?